Good evening. I'm Bill Maley, your Brighton Town Supervisor. I am so pleased to see a full house here tonight. We've got a lot of people here for a lot of different reasons, and it's wonderful to see you all. If you are here in the room, I just want to let you know we have an agenda and a bunch of supporting material that goes with our meeting tonight. All of that material is out on the back desk here in the room. The agendas, Mr. Del Monte has them there, but in that manila packet that's back there, there's also all the supporting material. If you are streaming us, or if you're watching on digital cable Spectrum channel 1303, you can get all of that same information on the town's webpage, and we welcome you to follow along with us. We're going to start tonight. One of the groups we have here tonight is Boy Scout Troop 77 from First Baptist Church, and I am going to invite all of us, if we're able, to please rise for the pledge, and I'm going to invite our scouts from Troop 77 to lead us in the pledge tonight. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Scouts. Thank you, everybody. I also want to introduce our ASL interpreters here tonight. That's Ali Fawi. I hope I pronounced that right. And Ali's here for the first time, I think, or close to it. And Tony LaPerna is also with us tonight. They'll be taking turns interpreting. We have ASL interpreters at all of our town board meetings. We are going to start tonight with our open forum. The open forum, before I do that, let me take care of some housekeeping, especially because we have so many people here tonight. In case of an emergency, you will hear the town hall emergency alarm system. You will know it if you hear it. If that alarm goes off, we all need to leave not only this auditorium, but the building quickly. If you can leave through this door to my right, if you go out that way, turn right, go down the stairs and out the back door of Town Hall, move away from the building. Or you can leave through the double doors at the rear of the auditorium here, out through the lobby, through the main front door, down the front steps, and again, away from the building. Occasionally, if you are watching us on Spectrum channel 1303 tonight, occasionally we may experience, or they may experience, technical difficulties either with the audio or the video transmission. If that happens, please contact Spectrum, and their number is 756-5000, 756-5000. Now we'll start the open forum. The open forum is your part of the meeting. The open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to come in and talk to the town board about almost any matter. Doesn't have to be something that's on our town board agenda tonight. We do ask that if you have personnel matters relating to particular town employees, that those are really not appropriate for a meeting like this. But other matters, we welcome you. In fact, we sort of got a head start on that tonight with the scouts from Troop 77. They are working on their citizenship in the community merit badge. And as you can imagine, I'm a big fan of that merit badge. I think that's an important merit badge. And apparently the Scouts do too, because 50 years ago when I was a Boy Scout, the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge existed then, and I earned it. So I congratulate all of you on working towards that merit badge. But in the open forum, again, anyone can participate, I would only ask that you raise your hand, and when I call on you, you can come up to the podium. I would note that we have 2 public hearings tonight, both relating to the budget and to the special district assessments. So if you're here to talk about the budget or special district assessments, and you'd like your comments to be considered by the board and put on the record as we consider the budget, I would encourage you to wait for that public hearing. But I would also note that if you're watching us remotely, streaming, or watching on Spectrum, you can call in to participate in the open forum, 303-3060. That's 303-3060. And if you are deaf or hard of hearing, you can use that same phone number, use your video phone, 303-3060. Someone will take your question or your comment and relay it up here to me. So let's get started with the open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the open forum? Mr. Bailey, good evening. And you know, because you've been here before, but I would ask that anybody that does speak to the open forum, please give us your name and your address, if you would, please. Thank you. It's all yours, Rod.
Good evening. My name is Rod Bailey, and I live on Clink Road. I appreciate the chance to talk to you once again about putting a price on carbon and trying to get Congress to take positive action to address the critical issue of climate change. I recognize, and all residents in the town should recognize, that Brighton has taken some critical steps or put in place some structures to do something about climate change. You have been named a climate-smart community. You're working on a climate action plan. You have a sustainability oversight committee, the Color Brighton Green Committee, and you've recently signed on for a community choice aggregation plan to bring green electricity to the residents of the town. Now, a number of very important developments have taken place since you last addressed this issue of putting a price on carbon in March of 2018. Almost daily, there is some news article about an extreme hurricane, massive flooding, extensive melting of the glaciers, or serious drought forcing people from their native lands. Most climatologists ascribe these events to climate change due to the increased levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. A recent report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change indicates if we don't do something very soon, we may not be able to limit the effects of releasing more carbon into the atmosphere. And I think you can appreciate that if we just pass a tax on carbon or do a carbon permit trading system, we won't see the kind of bipartisan support that will be needed to get something passed in our Congress. In the present Congress, House Resolution 763, the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, has been introduced and is currently supported by 65 members, including our own representative, Joe Morelli. What I'm asking tonight is that you join with Representative Morelli, along with the following local municipalities: City of Rochester, Village of Brockport, Penfield, Pittsford, and East Rochester, and pass a resolution urging Congress to enact H.R. 763. I know that Color Brighton Green has urged you to pass a resolution asking Congress to act on this. However, you have opposed passing such a resolution. I believe your opposition to such a resolution is based on the fact that you feel the town should be getting part of the dividend. I haven't quite figured out why that is such a great concern for Brighton, when obviously it was not for the municipalities I mentioned above. Even with slightly higher costs for gasoline, electricity, and natural gas, I would think a climate-smart community could figure out some ways to reduce some of its energy needs. Slowly transitioning your town fleet vehicles to electric vehicles would definitely reduce your energy costs. And the state has just announced a rebate program to help offset the costs of those vehicles. Those rebates will be awarded on a first-come, first-served basis, so some immediate action to this should get you some help. Switching street lights to LED lights would also reduce your electricity costs. I realize both of these endeavors might involve some upfront costs, but the long-term savings would more than offset those. It is time to take action now. Show that Brighton can be a leader in doing something about climate change, and show your support for Representative Morelli and the leadership role he is taking by co-sponsoring House Resolution 763. I have a copy of this statement along with the resolution I'm urging the town board to pass for each of you. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Rod, and we will enter that into the record. As you know, and not everybody here does know, the town did, in fact, in 2018, pass a resolution supporting the concept of carbon fee and dividend. We do believe that some sort of system along those lines would be an effective way. We absolutely believe, as I think anybody who truly believes in a free market based system recognizes that pricing is a critical factor in making sure that an economy works efficiently. And right now the market underprices carbon because it does not take into account the negative impacts that carbon has on the environment. However, we have discussed, and we've given a lot of thought, and Rod, I appreciate you bringing 763 before us. You're right. One of the reasons we oppose 763 as it is now written is that we don't think it's fair that the town be treated like a rendering factory. The town has been working very diligently among the things you describe and more. We have, in fact, gotten a grant for conversion of much of our town-owned streetlight system. We have already converted much of the interior lighting, not only in this building, but in others. We will be purchasing hybrid police vehicles for the first time. We wish there were other types of vehicles like our heavy trucks that operated on alternative forms of energy. However, when the concept of a carbon fee and dividend system is that residents would get a dividend back. And we, your local government, are really your alter ego. You pay the taxes that keep the lights on here at Town Hall, whatever kind of lights they are, and whatever electricity system. So if we don't get the dividend, you're being charged with a dividend, and again, frankly, we are being treated like a rendering factory or an auto plant or a smelter or some other, polluter. We believe that to be fair, a carbon fee and dividend system, the dividends should go to local government as well as to local residents. But there are a couple of other very important reasons why, although we support the concept and we voted unanimously to do so, why this particular resolution is problematic. One of them is the New York State tax cap. The New York State tax cap, unfortunately, does not recognize the severe fiscal impact that a carbon fee and dividend plan would have on a town, particularly if we did not get the dividend back. Those of you that are in the Brighton Central School District saw what happened this year when the Brighton Central School District initially went over the tax cap. Their budget was voted down. It would have cost residents hundreds of dollars in property tax rebates. And unfortunately, with the tax cap law the way it is currently written, if we were go to a carbon fee and dividend system, it would probably be nearly impossible without draconian service cuts for either the school district or the town to stay under the tax cap. To be honest with you, I can't answer why the towns and the city that have endorsed this bill did so, because I do think it would unfairly treat them and their residents. There's a third reason, and that is a reason based on equity. We also feel very strongly that 763 does not recognize that the carbon dividend, the fee and dividend system would impact lower income residents to a much greater extent than higher income residents. So there are really three reasons why, despite the fact that we do support the concept, and we have gone on record supporting the carbon fee and dividend, that we cannot support that legislation as it's currently written. So we would encourage all of you, particularly our scouts. You're the ones who live the future. You're the ones that we are going to be bequeathing this world to. Well, I would encourage you to reach out to your New York State government, and particularly to the governor, to encourage him so that we can go to a carbon fee and carbon fee and dividend system that a carve out to the tax cap be made available for local municipalities and school districts, and that we reach out to our members of Congress to ask them to make changes to the law. One, to make it more equitable for people of all income levels, and two, so that local municipalities do get the dividend that they deserve. That's a long-winded, but I think it's important that all of you understand that we are not simply sticking our head in the sand in our opposition to that particular legislation. It is exactly that. It is opposition to that particular legislation that's driving us. Yes, Rod.
I'd just like to briefly address a couple of the things. One is to ask whether you have talked to the leaders of the communities that have already endorsed House Resolution 763 to find out if they have a concern, why they don't have a concern, or if they figure they can accommodate it in their budget.
Most of those, yeah, go ahead.
The other point about equity, the economic studies that have been done in conjunction with a carbon fee and dividend situation have shown over and over and over that everybody gets the same dividend. For those with lower incomes who are typically spending less on the kinds of things that are going to be taxed are going to come out ahead. The estimate is that at least 60% of the people getting the dividend will come out ahead of what the slight increases in prices are going to be.
Robin?
Hi, Rod. I know that we've had this discussion before, and definitely for me, the primary issue here is one of equity. I absolutely endorse some kind of carbon pricing. And
we all do.
Yes, we absolutely endorse some kind of carbon pricing, and we have passed a resolution to that effect. I think the concern here is that communities that are disproportionately impacted by climate change today, those like Flint, Michigan, would be getting the same dividend as a community like Brighton, New York, which does have clean water to drink, fortunately. And so if we simply move forward with a model of issuing dividends that are equal to everyone, then those communities remain behind. And so there's a basic premise of inequity built into the structure of this legislation that we are rejecting. Now, if you are, maybe, would it be something that you would be interested in if we would endorse something like the Green New Deal, which actually does have measures to enforce equity, or is it just this particular legislation that you would like to support? Because we absolutely support action on the federal level, and we have stated as a board that we endorse action on a federal level. But this particular bill we find problematic. And I will mention also that the Green New Deal has 90 signers, as opposed to this legislation that is stuck at 65. And so there's actually more traction for the Green New Deal, which, yes, is more aspirational than this particular legislation, but I do feel that the devil is in the details, and the reason that some people are voting with their feet and not in withholding their support of this resolution is that they find it problematic in some of the ways that we have found it problematic.
I appreciate, I want to make sure that everybody in the audience who wants to address something during the open forum does have the opportunity to do so. Yes, I've talked to some of the leaders of those communities, but I also take my lead from what I know to be the conditions on the ground here in Brighton. We were the school district. We've got a bunch of students from the Brighton Central School District here tonight. We have heard from clubs that have had to disband this year because the school district could no longer fund them in order to stay under the tax cap. We have programming that we would very much like to do, that we would very much like to have kept in our budget, but we can't because they would take us over the tax cap. We've walked through the math. It would cost us in the first year, well, in the neighborhood of $150,000 at least, and that would continue each year, hopefully somewhat offset. But again, I do want to give others the chance to address any concerns that they might have during the open forum. We do have your resolution. We have your information. We will continue to be the leaders in environmental activism among local communities. But Robin said it as well as any of us can. The devil's in the details, and the details of this legislation proposed, I don't believe work for the town of Brighton. Hello.
Hi, Bill. How are you
How are
today?
you, Cheryl? Come on.
Supervisor Milley.
Bill is fine.
Okay. I'm Cheryl Frank. I live on Winton Road. I'm the president of Color Brighton Green. I'm hearing this exchange, and I would like you to please relook at this legislation. I'm here to support Rod Bailey's request for the town to pass a resolution in support of the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. It's House Resolution 763. There are actually, as of today, 67 co-sponsors from 21 states. In case you are thinking, which I see you are, that the town might not want to support the resolution because the town may not get the dividend, well, just please know that the town does not consist of only the town board and these buildings and the police station, but the town consists of all the people.
That's correct.
Who live in the town. And all the people will get a dividend, including town employees and their families. British Columbia enacted a carbon tax in 2008. Since then, their gross domestic product has grown by 19%, while net emissions have declined by 3.7%. I'm not saying this legislation is going to completely solve our climate crisis. However, it is an important part of it. We need to look at the long view. According to Akshaya Jha, do you want me to spell that for you? A-K-S-H-A-Y-A, that's his first name. His last name is J-H-A. He's the assistant professor of economics and public policy at Carnegie Mellon. And he says the main reason to put a carbon tax in place is primarily to generate new ideas, new technology, and new innovation which I know this town is very good at. It will help to generate these things worldwide, not just in the US. And actually, since the US is now, did you know the US is now the main world producer of gas?
Yes.
And this is not a sustainable form of energy, so new innovation is needed. And I also echo Mr. Bailey's praise of the many steps that Brighton is taking to address climate change. I plugged my car into the electric for the first time. Every other time it's been full, but I plugged it in tonight. And members of the Citizens Climate Lobby all over the country are asking their towns and governments to support H.R. 763. The bill is supported by climate scientist James Hansen and former Secretary of State George Shultz. The governments of several localities, including 17 cities of more than 50,000 residents, have signed resolutions urging the Congress to pass H.R. 763. It has public support from several small businesses and nonprofits, including the Environmental Defense Fund. So please make me continue to be proud of the community where I live and show your leadership by supporting the Energy Innovation Act. Thank you.
Thank you. What we will continue to do is advocate on behalf of Brighton residents to Joe Morelli, to the state of New York, to make the changes that would be necessary for H.R. 763 to be something that would not impose an untenable burden on residents of Brighton. But what it would do today, and it's inescapable, it would cause the school district to go over the tax cap, costing every, and not just the Brighton Central School District. I have no doubt that a carbon fee and dividend structure would cause almost every school district in New York State to go over the tax cap. Almost each year, costing every property taxpayer hundreds. In the Brighton Central School District, it would be well over $500 a year, simply from what would be the draconian application of the tax cap. I would encourage all climate supporters to reach out to Governor Cuomo and urge him to make changes to the tax cap legislation, and to Congressman Morelli, as well as other members of Congress who are supportive, to make sure that this legislation can work here in the state of New York, that it can implement a workable carbon fee and dividend approach. But again, it is very important that local municipalities not be treated as though we were crass polluters. We are the alter ego of our residents, just as our residents would receive the benefit of the dividend. The town of Brighton and other similarly situated municipalities should as well. I know, we're talking back and forth at each other, and I look forward to hearing another voice.
Hi, my name is Helen Frank. I live on Winton Road, and I'm a junior at Brighton High School.
And you're a cellist, if I recall.
Oh, that's my sister.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'll tell her you remembered her. I'm here representing Brighton High School's Climate Club and Rochester Youth Climate Leaders. My peers and I are terrified for our future. We are already beginning to see the effects of climate change, and if we don't take adequate action now, my generation and future generations will suffer catastrophic climate devastation. Youth and Brighton residents are clearly concerned about the climate. RYCL has been working with the Monroe County Legislature this past 7 months to help them establish a climate action plan. Quite frankly, this process is moving very slowly, and to see Brighton be a leader and take action would be fantastic. As part of the week of global climate strikes at the end of September, local environmental organizations, including many youth from Brighton, planned a strike in front of Rochester City Hall on September 27th. Around 1,000 people attended, and this includes many Brighton residents and youth.
Some of whom are sitting here at this table.
As you know, people in Brighton clearly care. We as youth are here with Rod Bailey and Color Brighton Green and CCL as they ask the board to reconsider passing a resolution in support of carbon fee and dividend. We are asking Brighton to be a leader and take effective action because your people care. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address? Yes, ma'am. Hi.
My name is Sherry Salmer. I'm Lathan's mother who's covering his face over here. And
It's okay. It's okay.
We live off French Road and Chartwell Estates. This isn't about climate, but I wanted to know, we recently, last year, moved from Webster, and Webster changed the times of the schools and everything. Wanted to know if that is something Brighton is thinking about or not, and if you see any validity to doing that or not? Because it was a big conversation at dinner last night.
Well, and it's great, and it's a great conversation. That's a decision that, of course, the Brighton Central School District and the school board would make. I know there is a lot of conversation about that issue. It was one of the topics, for example, Christine Corrado led a group from
Yes.
Cornell as it relates to some of our traffic safety issues.
School
So,
start times definitely impact more than just the students in the classrooms. It impacts the community, it impacts traffic, it impacts family management, it impacts our businesses, it impacts public safety. So it is something that the town is mindful of, and there is intersection between the discussions at the district level and the town level. It doesn't happen in a silo. So it is good to hear from citizens who are interested in seeing that move forward.
Thank you.
thank you. Yes?
My name is Lily Hunt, and I go to Brighton High School. I live in Meadowbrook, and I'm representing the Climate Club at Brighton High School and the Rochester Youth Climate Organization. And the cost of carbon is already here. We're already experiencing it. It's just in a bit of a different form. It doesn't have any paperwork. The carbon tax that we are proposing reflects the cost of burning carbon, the cost towards our communities and our businesses and the nation. And we are making sure that companies and consumers pay for the environmental cost that is already there, the cost on society. And it returns the cost of global warming to the producers. Without the tax, our economy will fall because of extreme weather and other effects by climate change that are producing a lot of costs for the economy. Like hurricanes, even if they're in someplace else, because we are in Rochester, they still affect us. And excuse me. The carbon tax will make consumers more energy efficient and producers more renewable. And it actually keeps the free market part of our economy intact because it allows companies to choose how to reduce emission. And it also makes the price of carbon more stable because the price of carbon can affect on things like weather, which isn't fantastic for Rochester. And there also have been a lot of success stories. Like I know one of the issues is that our economy will there'll be catastrophic effects from it. But there are plenty of success stories from places that have implemented this tax into a much higher level than what we are proposing. For example, Sweden, their economy actually grew 55% because it because of its decreased emissions by 23%. And unfortunately, some carbon taxes will hurt lower income people the most, which because they won't be able to afford to switch. However, the one that we are proposing since revenue will be returned to households in the dividend system, it would not do that nearly as much, and hopefully not at all. And we are responsible as a nation for most of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere currently. We are the second highest we are the second highest country in carbon emissions. And that is why it's our responsibility to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Is there anyone else that would like to? Judy?
Judy Schwartz, 179 Ashbourne Road. I'm here again to talk about the candidates night that Bright Neighbors United is hosting October 30th at 7 o'clock in the boardroom at the administration building, which is 2035 Monroe Avenue, right next door to Canandaigua National Bank. We have a moderator from the League of Women Voters who will be conducting the program. It is a Q&A format rather than a debate. I encourage everyone in the room to come. You can submit your questions, and you can get your answers that night, too. So, again, October 30th, 7 o'clock at the boardroom at Town School Board.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during our open forum? Hearing none, then we will continue on with the agenda tonight. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the materials that were submitted by Mr. Bailey?
So moved. Second.
The town clerk is now here. I will ask the town attorney if you would call the roll. He'll be walking in.
Happy to try. Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. We have two public hearings tonight. Both of them relate to the town budget, and we've talked at least peripherally about that. But before we open the hearings, I do want to just review very briefly the process by which we have developed this budget and the substance of that budget, and how the budget is part and parcel of how we maintain the fiscal strength of our community. The first step each year in preparing our budget is one that's recommended by the state comptroller, although a lot of towns do not do it, and that is to prepare a capital improvement plan. We do a 3-year capital improvement plan to look at large capital expenditures each year. We do that with input from our town's Sustainability Oversight Committee, as well as our Budget Review Task Force. We review it with our Town Finance Committee and the town board itself, and the town board takes action to approve that capital improvement plan. We then work on the single-year budget, and we start incorporating those capital investments from the capital improvement plan, but we also ask each department to prepare a set of requests that go into the budget. Those requests are reviewed not only by the town board, but by members of the public at 2 town board workshops that are held in August of each year. There's a recurring theme here of the open and frankly very thorough nature of the budget review. After those workshops in August, the finance department and myself worked to put together a tentative budget. And that budget was presented to the community in September and reviewed then through the Finance Committee. We have held one public hearing already, and we're holding a second public hearing tonight. I would note that state law only requires one public hearing. We believe it's important to give people two opportunities before we take action on the budget, which we do prior to Election Day. We also believe it's very important, before you go out to vote, that you know what your community's budget looks like, what your leaders are proposing in terms of a budget. So we will be doing that tonight following the second town board hearing. What's in the budget this year? We had a little conversation earlier about the tax cap, and I think it's important to note that this year's budget is in compliance again this year with the state tax cap. For that reason, although the town board had tentatively scheduled a public hearing to consider exceeding the tax cap through the adoption of a local law, we will not be doing that. We will not be holding that public hearing tonight. The town operating tax levy will increase by 1.77% under this budget. That works out to about 7.5 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation, or an increase of approximately $14.74 for a home valued at $200,000. I think it is important to note that each individual homeowner's tax bill will increase by a greater or a lesser percent, depending on the special districts that you're a part of and whether there have been changes in the assessed valuation of your home. But overall, that town operating budget tax levy will increase by 1.77%. Now, we take great pride in the fiscal stability of the town. We do take great pride in staying under the tax cap each year. This budget will continue to maintain the fiscal strength of the town. That fiscal strength has been recognized by the state comptroller in their annual review of the fiscal stress of towns, cities, villages, and counties. It has been recognized by Moody's, the bond rating firm, which gives the town of Brighton a AA2 bond rating, a very, very high bond rating, and by our auditors that gave us again this year a clean review of our financial services. We balance maintaining that fiscal stability with providing the kind of services that led the town of Brighton last year to be voted as the best place to live in New York. We take tremendous pride in that. We take tremendous pride in the various factors that make up the quality of life in our community. And we also recognize the importance of maintaining taxes at a level that are affordable. Taxes are a challenge, particularly for some of our seniors and some of our lower income residents. So that's a lot to try to balance, and that's a lot to take into account as we put the budget together. I believe we've done that again this year at 1.77%. That budget is certainly comparable to the rate of inflation at a time when some of the cost factors that we have to take into account can go up significantly more than that. How did we get there? Well, I first want to thank Paula Parker, our Director of Finance. You work incredibly hard, you and your entire department, each year in making the budget happen. But you particularly, and obviously Deputy Finance Director Suzanne Zaso, really do the heavy lifting in making it all possible. I also want to thank our volunteers, the Budget Review Task Force members, Sustainability Oversight members. They too put a lot of time in reviewing the work that we do. And finally, of course, my colleagues here on the town board, because you get the almost finished product. It's your responsibility to review it and make a decision tonight after hearing input, not just in this formal setting, but certainly in other settings, and making a decision as to whether this is a good budget for the town of Brighton. So I thank you all for doing that very much. So then I will ask, Dan, has the necessary, before I do that, let me just note, we do have two hearings tonight. One is on the budget itself. One is on the assessment rolls for service charges, maintenance charges, capital improvements, and the like. I see them on the agenda with the assessment roll hearing first. I'm going to, with all of your consent, do them in the same order we did them at the first public hearing 2 weeks ago, and we will hold our first hearing on the operating and capital improvement budgets. But in doing so, don't worry that you're talking about the wrong item. If you're here to talk about the budget, the financial condition of the town, don't worry that you're doing it at the wrong time. Just come on up to the podium if you would like to do so. So Dan, I'm now going to ask, has the necessary legal notice been given for the proposed supervisor's 2020 preliminary operating and capital improvement budget public hearing?
Yes, Supervisor, they were in the September 26th edition of the Post, as well as message board, the mailing, website.
Thank you. Legal notice having been given, I will call the second public hearing on the town 2020 preliminary operating and capital improvement budget to order. The finance director has made 2 presentations on the budget. I believe the presentation is in the packet, the PowerPoint that has been done. But unless you want to say anything more, Paula, I will declare the public hearing to be open. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on the 2020 preliminary operating and capital improvement budget? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing on the 2020 preliminary operating and capital improvement budgets to be closed. It is my hope that we will take action on that budget tonight. And to that end, Jason, would you like to propose the resolution?
Yes, with respect to the proposed supervisors 2020 preliminary operating and capital improvement budgets, I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And by the way, I declare that public hearing closed if I didn't already do so. Comments by members of the board? We've had a lot of opportunities to talk about this budget in committee, in public hearings, in workshops, and as I said before, I appreciate the work you've put in getting us to this point.
So, Bill, I thought it was a great summary of the process that you gave at the beginning of the public hearing, and I'd just like to express my gratitude not only to Paul and the finance department, who did a spectacular job pulling everything together, but our other department heads who had to make some hard decisions in order to meet all of our budget constraints and provide the services and the programs that we want to provide to the best of our abilities. Thank you.
I'd like to add, too, that this budget reflects the value that we place in this town on the nice things that we all want to have and the important things that we all need. And when the community discussion tilts towards complaint and concern over rising taxes, we can only point back to the fact that we have made a collective commitment in Brighton to ensure that we have well-maintained parks, that we have healthy recreation programs, that we have a police force that attends to our town closely and with commitment to our community, that we have roadways that are complete and accessible to all, and we're working towards making that even more so. And so we shoulder the burden together so that we have the benefit together. And I appreciate the detailed work that goes into making sure that we are not overspending in any way and we're not overtaxing at all.
Thank you, Christine.
Bill, if I might add an observation, and many folks talk about, and we spent a lot of time on doorsteps in the last few months, about that our taxes are high in the town of Brighton. Our services are considerable in the town of Brighton, but if people would please focus on the town taxes that we control that are reflected in this budget. All I can say is I personally have spent time looking at my own personal tax bill. I pay approximately $15,000 a year in taxes. It's above, I'd say, the average, but I enjoy my home, and I'm willing to pay the tax that goes along with the value of that home. But out of that $15,000, I pay $1,747 in town tax. If you divide that on a monthly basis, that's $145 per month for police, for highways, for plowing, for library, for parks, for recreation, and all the other town services that are reflected in this budget. That, I believe, is a bargain. And we've done all we can to keep that as low as possible and still maintaining those services. And I'm quite proud of what this town is able to accomplish with that kind of tax rate.
And I do think it's important to note, because we've heard a lot about the very important issue of sustainability and climate tonight. We have incorporated into much of what we are doing efforts starting, well, certainly not starting, but maybe cornerstone being our comprehensive plan that was approved by the board last year in 2018, which was centered on the notion of sustainability and making our community a more sustainable community. We will continue, whether it's, again, the police cars that we will be buying for the first time that are hybrid vehicles, looking at alternative energy uses in other ways, changing lighting, building new trails, so many things that we do, sidewalks to make our community walkable. All of these things and more don't necessarily, show up obviously, but they do make a difference, and we continue to be committed to operating government in a sustainable way, and those sustainability efforts are also reflected in this budget.
And I would add, Bill, that one of the components of the budget is also the development of a climate action plan, which we had mentioned here tonight. So.
Yep, absolutely true. Yep, thanks, Robin. Okay, any further comments? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye.
Isn't it nice to have a pro doing it who does it in the right order?
We now, for our second public hearing, will be relating to the proposed 2020 assessment rolls for service charges, maintenance charges, capital improvements, and sewer rent charges for special improvement districts within the town. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, again, this was in the September 26th edition of the Brighton-Pittsburgh Post, our town website, as well as the clerk message board.
Thanks, and the mailing that went out in
The mailing that went out in the rec bulletin.
Rec bulletin, thank you. Legal notice having been given, I declare the public hearing on the 2020 assessment rolls, et cetera, to be open. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on that matter? These relate to our various district charges, water charges, sewer charges, and the like. They also relate to some other special charges, some highway and other related efforts. Hearing none, and this is the second public hearing we've held on the proposed assessment rolls, I declare this public hearing to be closed, and Jason, I would ask again for a motion.
Yes, with respect to the proposed 2020 assessment rolls for service charges, maintenance charges, capital improvements, and sewer rent charges for special improvement districts within the town, I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
Any discussion by the town board? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Again, thank you, everybody, for getting us through this budget process. Next, we have communications. Can I have a motion to receive and file the communications on the agenda tonight with the addition of the communication from Mr. Bailey?
So moved.
Second.
In addition to Mr. Bailey's communication, we have communication dated October 9th from Ian Benjamin, who is with the State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. They're relating to potential inspections of municipal parks to ensure that they have met certain Land and Water Conservation Fund standards. I don't believe those inspections have taken place yet, but they may come out, and we certainly believe we have done what we're required to do with respect to those parks. We also have correspondence from the president of the Canal Society of New York State concerning the Canal Corporation's Reimagining New York Canals white paper. I want to talk about the canal communication a little bit, and this is a good time to do it. As you know, the Canal Corporation developed a plan with very, very little public input and even less environmental review that would have caused the clear cutting of large stretches of the canal across the entire state, but in particular in the Rochester area. And in fact, that work had begun on the west side of the county before the towns of Brighton, Pittsford, and Perrington were able to get together and bring a lawsuit against the Canal Corporation to stop that clear cutting based on their failure, complete failure, to conduct an environmental review of the project. We were successful in court, and the work was halted. And conversations had been going on and continue to go on. And we are aware that the state continues to want to look at how it maintains, their words, maintains the canal and particularly vegetation on the canal. We have just recently, this week, seen a proposed timeline for the environmental review of that project. This is a project that will extend over 200 miles, involving countless hundreds of acres of vegetation that would be potentially clear-cut or at least significantly cut back. In other words, a project much bigger than anything that we would ever do here in the town of Brighton. When we look at a project here in the town of Brighton that is a type 1 action, meaning an action that may have significant environmental impacts, part of the process is scoping, determining what the scope of environmental review will be. When we scope a project, we reach out to the community and formally conduct public hearings so that the public will have the opportunity in a very structured way to put their concerns, their questions, their comments on the record to be taken into account when town staff prepares the scope. The timeline that the Canal Corporation has put out for the vegetation maintenance program across the entire length of the canal does call for public review, but it does not call for public hearings on the scope of the environmental review of the project. I think that's a shortcoming in what they have proposed, and I will be communicating with the Canal Corporation, I hope with all of your support as well, indicating that the town of Brighton desires that formal public hearings be held, yes, here in the Rochester area, and certainly I would hope in more than one location, but throughout the path of the canal, so that people in Utica, people in Rome, people in Lyons, people in other communities, Medina, Lockport, that have the canal as one of their community amenities will have the opportunity to weigh in on what the scope of the environmental review will be. We're going to continue to look at this project very closely. The lawsuit that we won only relates to the failure of environmental review. We will still have to look very closely at whether the vision that we have enjoyed of the Erie Canal for all these years, which in many areas has beautiful wooded areas that make it easier for walkers and cyclists to traverse the canal trails without the beating sun, habitat for animals, and just the scenic beauty of the canal. How does that factor in to a consideration of maintenance of the canal? So we will continue to be engaged in both the environmental review and the substantive review of the Canal Corporation's project. Finally, the last piece of communication we have is communication from Larry Hauk, the treasurer of the Brighton Finance District, relating to the proposed fire district tax levy for the 2020 budget. Does anybody have any questions or comments concerning any of those items? If not, Dan, would you please call the roll on the motion to receive and file those?
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Manley.
Aye. Committee reports, Community Services Committee. Robin?
Thanks, Bill. The Community Services Committee met on October 16th at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School, 220 Idlewood Road. Among the items that we discussed were under communications, a email communication from Barbara Bowerman regarding the pocket park at the end of Bonnie Bray and Sonora Parkway. This discussion was held over from our last Community Services Committee meeting. Since then, Commissioner of Public Works Mike Guyon and I met at the park on October 10th to review the concerns enumerated in the email, and Mike took as an action item to review the maintenance schedule and report back. Upon further review, we verified that the Highway Department limits its maintenance of the park strictly to mowing. It's clear that a Good Samaritan has been maintaining the area, pruning and planting and mulching of the garden. The resident who brought the park to our attention would like to table the discussion until spring. There was a discussion of this and other pocket parks potentially being among sites available for volunteer attention under the Beautification Committee's Adopt a Site program that is currently under development. Under items of continuing business, park issues, our Park Superintendent Matt Beeman noted that problematic trees within Corbett's Glen Nature Park are scheduled to be removed by Birchcrest, our contractor. And also a playground plan has been finalized for Meridian Center Park, with equipment being secured in part from grant funding or discount pricing, really, from the manufacturer Game Time, and the remainder from town funds. The town will likely take delivery of the equipment by the end of the year, and to conserve costs, town staff will install the playground, but dedicated Game Time personnel will be on site to supervise that installation. As a result, beginning at the end of November, the Meridian Center Park playground will be fenced off and will remain inaccessible until the playground is completely installed. Other items we discussed was Griffith Energy will be replacing an oil tank at the Brighton Town Park soon, which engendered a discussion about the replacement of the lodge heating system, which is getting on the antiquated side, and conversion to propane and fireplace replacement being among the items that are considered for inclusion on the 2021 capital improvement plan. The Brighton Kiwanis had previously donated 2 benches for installation near the Sway Fund glider in the playground area on the Town Hall campus. The benches are scheduled for installation soon, weather and staffing allowing, and we want to thank the Kiwanis for their generosity. The Highland Crossing Trail grand opening is scheduled to take place at Brickstone, 1325 Elmwood Avenue on Friday, October 25th at 10 a.m., and we hope to see lots of members of the community out to support that. Our superintendent of parks also met with Spall Management to discuss the drainage and elevation issues related to walkways that extend from the parking lot at Meridian Center to the actual park. Spall Management is willing to let the town do whatever is needed to repair the area to make the walkways more passable for the public. Matt observed that the walkway repair may be a good project to accommodate a recent request from an Eagle Scout for a project, and is coordinating with the requester to determine fit and viability. You may have noticed that work at the Triangle Park gazebo has begun. All materials are ordered, and work was scheduled to start this week with the contractor, and I see that it has. Under recreation programs, Rebecca Cotter, our Director of Recreation, noted that fall program registration is underway and has been very steady. The winter and spring program planning has begun. The department is actively seeking new and diverse program offerings to include in the brochure, and we welcome input from the community. Recreation staff is currently working with Brighton Central School District to have a bathroom stall door repaired after it fell off recently, which highlighted some of the ongoing maintenance concerns that we have at the Brookside facility. In addition to that, we discussed that the Rec 1 contract amendment, this is the vendor for our online program registration for Brighton Parks and Brighton Recreation, is under review, and we hope to have it finalized by the end of the month. There was additional discussion of class schedules and Brighton Recreation having a consistent policy of following the Brighton Central School District calendar for all classes that incorporate fees, whether they be adult or youth classes. Free drop-in activities will still take place when school is closed, but all of those for-fee programming options will follow the Brighton Central School District calendar. We also had a discussion reinforcing our protocols to limit access and programs to only service animals. We kindly ask that members of the public adhere to these rules. We had an update to our Winters Farmers Market development. Process is still moving forward with phase 2 with the RFP design parameters under development with Insight Architects. An update to our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board. The board has now convened 3 times, and all members have made it to at least one meeting or at least signaled their intent to attend an upcoming meeting. There was discussion of the ability of the committee to advise on ad hoc issues concerning inclusion and diversity within the town. They are focused currently on the development of an Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Action Plan. So we are adding a check-in portion to the meeting agendas to allow for community sharing. Members of the IDEA board and the consultant are planning to attend a January town board meeting to introduce themselves and provide an update to the community on the scope of and parameters of their charter and progress towards those goals. An update to our community choice aggregation law. The Public Service Commission mandated community forums are being scheduled for Brighton currently. Plans are to have a community choice aggregation information session at the East Brighton Community Forum on November 20th and a standalone CCA community forum at Town Hall on November 21st. We anticipate that the West Brighton Community Forum and CCA information session will be in early December. The Memorandum of Understanding municipality town attorneys are in the process of finalizing the contract with the CCA administrator, Jewel Assets. An update to our community organization, Brighton Safe Streets for All. The Monroe Avenue Complete Streets Makeover Community Design Workshop, led by Master's candidate Naomi Krim, held a community forum at Town Hall this past Sunday, October 20th, from 1 to 4 p.m. to share information and plans and garner additional feedback from the community on that important re-envisioning of our main corridor. We also had a discussion of safety near schools during the busy start and end of the school day, and we noted that the level of traffic enforcement on Elmwood Avenue has been increased to try to calm the traffic there. We're in ongoing communication with our Chief Cathaldi and Brighton Central School District to monitor the situation, and we ask the community members please be mindful of pedestrians and cyclists and in the 12 corners and throughout the town, really, and adhere to our traffic laws. An update to our council member on your corner sessions. The next session will be on Sunday, October 27th, this Sunday, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, and our town supervisor will be in attendance as one of the staffers of that session. We look forward to seeing the community then, and thank you for your continued and insightful feedback provided during these sessions. An update to the Brighton Complete Count Committee, that is with regard to our 2020 census. We noted that Susan Perry of the Rochester Monroe Complete Count Committee will be doing a presentation at the next Community Services Committee meeting. She'll also attend the Brighton Believes Council meeting in December to raise awareness about the 2020 census among the community leaders that assemble there. And finally, Ms. Perry is scheduled to appear at the Council Member on Your Corner session on November 10th.
She is everywhere.
She is everywhere.
She has been
and
all over town.
Yeah. We do need to saturate the community
Yeah.
with this information because
So important.
the risk of undercount is looming, and in order to obtain the funds that our community deserves, we need every head to be counted. We had a discussion of the Brighton opt-in to rent stabilization, or the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, and the Anti-Displacement Learning Network has a request for applications out. I was gathering data and working with the citywide tenants union and various Brighton school districts, the county, and other non-governmental agencies to review that RFA form to see who we might have at risk for displacement within the Brighton community. We're not sure that the deadline will be met to submit that application to have a study done in our community. But we do continue to look at the issue of affordability of our town for all residents. Community Services Committee website. We're still working on the verbiage for the revised website, and I hope to have something by the next Community Services Committee meeting. We noted that the Beautification Committee is going to be reinitiating the utility box program, and that information is featured prominently on the website for Community Services, but will shift to the Beautification Committee website. One last item of continuing business, the mobile African American history display. We're currently in meetings with Mary Jo Lamphere, the town historian, and Marilyn Rosen of CURB to curate content for the display. And we do envision that mobile display being used at different town events and other events within the community to promote our diverse history here in Brighton. Under items of new business, we are reviewing a territory acknowledgement and discussing the potential, any potential legal ramifications for that, and so we intend for that to be reviewed by the town attorney. And we also briefly discussed visible representations of religious holidays within the town, and we try to make sure that our displays are all non-religious but definitely festive in nature. Upcoming events for the community include our haunted grounds at the Buckland Farmhouse. That is at 1341 Westfall Road, and will be on Friday, October 25th from 6 to 9 p.m. And our semi-annual DEA pharmaceutical take-back event will be at the Brighton Town Hall Public Safety Wing this Saturday, October 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And our Veterans Luncheon is coming up at the Brighton Town Park, Carmen Clark Lodge, 777 Westfall Road on Friday, December 6th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The next meeting of our Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, November 20th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center. And as always, members of the public are encouraged to attend.
Thanks, Robin. Jason?
Yes, Bill, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Tuesday, October 15th. Each of the items discussed in committee appear on tonight's agenda. In addition, we discussed the 2020 proposed Finance and Administrative Services Committee meeting schedule that will be reviewed and adopted at a later date in time for the town board to adopt at our organizational meeting, which will be the first business day in January. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, November 5th. We will meet at 3:30 in the afternoon in the Stage Conference Hall here at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Jason. Public Safety.
Public Safety has not met since the last town board meeting. The next meeting will be Tuesday, November 12th at 8 a.m. here in the Town Hall lower level meeting room. Participate.
And Public Works. Chris?
Public Works has not met since our last town board meeting. It's a monthly meeting. The next meeting is Tuesday, November 5th at 9 o'clock in the lower conference room, and please attend.
Terrific.
Also to Road Tech LLC in the amount of $72,119.97 for claims related to the project work on the reserve as approved via sealed bid award and financed by the letter of credit that was posted by the developer. Also to the Depository Trust Company in the amount of $63,056.25, representing our first payment for the Westfall Road Parkland acquisition bonds issued in June of 2018, of which $45,000 was principal. Also to Espana Enterprises in the amount of $42,213.71, representing payment for the purchase and installation of stone curbs for Havens Road. Also to Motorola Communications Incorporated in the amount of $52,791.18, representing payment for the purchase of a new two-way radio system for the Highway and Sewer Departments per the 2019 Capital Improvement Plan. And related to the Community Services Report, to Game Time in the amount of $44,012.56, representing purchase of playground equipment for Meridian Center Park. And finally, to Van Bortle Ford in the amount of $26,518.46, representing purchase of a 2019 Ford F-250 pickup truck for the Highway Department per the Capital Improvement Plan. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on those? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason, why don't you do the next one as well?
Sure. And the next matter seeks to authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $1,049.17 from the town clerk's supplies and contractual expense account to the town clerk's office furniture account for the replacement of 4 office chairs in the town clerk's office. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none. On your chairs, please call the roll, Dan.
On chairs for my staff.
Yes.
I am
Yes.
not getting a new chair.
There you go.
I actually purchased my own, so. Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize a budget you always give me the long ones, Bill. I'm going to talk real slow. Authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $11,065 from the Highway Department. Parks Highway Equipment Account, $400. Maintenance Repair Service Account, $5,475. Equipment Rental Services, $1,200. Membership and Training, $500. Highway Town Landfill Postage Charges Account, $2,690. Printing Copy Charge Account, $800. All to the Department of Public Works Tree Replacement Program Landscaping Services Account for additional emergency removals of town-owned trees that are a hazard to the public. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Just the Highway Department and the Public Works Department. They the long ones. It's not my fault.
Okay. Give it to Robin.
You know, it speaks for itself. We continue to deal with police that need to be removed due to their condition and the risk to the public.
And Mike, is that an increase in trees this year you think we're taking down, or how does it compare with other years?
I think it's similar, Chris. I don't think it's an increase. What has increased is when we put the project out to bid, the cost per takedown.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin?
The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an intermunicipal agreement regarding cooperation to reduce stormwater pollution and protect water quality with the County of Monroe and other municipalities located in Monroe County for the 4 years from January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2024, for a fee determined annually by the Stormwater Coalition of Monroe County. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
We referenced that as 4 years, but I think that's actually 5 years. And I'm just checking the communication, and yes, that is the time frame.
Yes, it's
So
5 years.
that is a 5-year period, but the
Okay.
dates are correct. Yeah. I'm sorry, so we had, Robin, you made that motion, and did we have a second?
Chris?
Very good. Mike, do you want to talk about the,
Yeah, real briefly, we've been working with the Monroe County Stormwater Coalition for a long, long time, let's put it that way. Tim was a founding member. Tim Keefe, the former Commissioner of Public Works, was a founding member. The commission, the Stormwater Coalition does fantastic work, primarily with education. You'll see our billboards around, you'll see our commercials. I sit on the executive committee. We work very hard to improve our water quality in the town, in the county. As the town is considered an MS4, and we have an MS4 permit we need to maintain. By working with the coalition, we're able to maintain the first two requirements of that report. Without them, it would be it wouldn't be very cost effective, let's put it that way. They've also been instrumental in us getting the GIGP grant, so they've also been able to fund some of our projects too. It's been a great relationship.
thank you. Any further discussion on that?
Yes. If you could accept a friendly amendment to the resolution to amend the language to 5 years from 4 years.
Done.
Acceptable to the second.
Is it yes, it does
Yes,
reference
it does
in the
reference a number of
resolution
years,
itself.
so-
Yep, okay. Done. And Chris and Robin have both indicated their assent.
Yes.
Anything further? If not, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Christine?
The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute a renewal agreement with PenFlex Incorporated for a term of 1 year from November 1st, 2019 through October 31st, 2020.
That really is 1 year.
That is. But a long year, a leap year.
There you go.
For service as the third-party administrator for the West Brighton Fire Protection District's Length of Service Award Program. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And they're not charging us extra for the fact that.
That extra day.
Kristen.
Chris?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Why don't you do the next one too, Christine?
Sure. The next matter seeks acceptance of a $25 donation from the Sisters of Mercy, Mercy Bridges Field of Honor Committee, and amending the 2019 budget by increasing the police department programs and supplies account by said amount. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Thank you to the Sisters of Mercy and to Mercy Bridges. It's a great program that Mercy Bridges runs, and they've had a great relationship with the police department, and I know the chief will communicate his thanks. We have that motion and second. Further discussion? If not, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeHonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, Chris, I'll give you a short one this time.
Thanks, Bill. The next is to set a public hearing date for the creation of Extension 105 to the Brighton Consolidated Sewer District. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
And that public hearing is scheduled for, sorry, I'm
November
rolling up here,
26th.
November 26th. Thank you.
Does that date work for you, Mike?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
Good. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Who had the second? My apologies.
Christine.
Christine, second.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. And finally, Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to approve appointment of a person to the position of Deputy Court Administrator. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
And this is a vacancy that we've had. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Paula, the September 2019 expense and revenue report, and it's the end of the third quarter, so
is.
you'll give us the
I will.
long form.
I'll give you the lowdown and the high up.
I like
So here we are at the third quarter. I'm going to just, again, try to make it as brief as I can to kind of recap what we did at the beginning of 2019 with our adopted budget, since we did just adopt our 2020 budget. So last year, in the operating funds, we provided for $25.8 million of net appropriations. We raised $14,986,000 in property taxes. We used $1,280,000 of appropriated fund balance, which included $85,000 in reserves. The remainder was $9,531,000, which was from all other revenue sources, like sales tax, like interest earnings, like mortgage tax, all other revenue sources. So currently, 54% of that $9.5 million is going to be our sales tax and our mortgage tax. Sales tax is paid quarterly, and we've received the first two payments this year. We received one in May and August, and we've received 45% of our projected budget amount, which I know doesn't sound great given that we're at 75% of our current year for benchmarking purposes. However, we are ahead of where we were in the previous year for the first two quarterly payments. We've received two of the highest first quarterly payments that we've ever received. So indeed, I expect the last two payments to come, which will be in November, and then the next one we don't receive until February, so we'll estimate it and we'll book it as a receivable. So right now we are trending 3.5% over 2018, which is good. We want that to bump up, but that's good. We're sitting good on sales tax. Mortgage tax, I reported last quarter, we received $455,000, 51% of our projected budget. And from what I understand from our assessor and our sales, we should see, again, we should reach what we budgeted, which was $825,000. We should see that number reach it, and we're hoping to go over just a little bit on that revenue.
We're hoping to go over a lot on that revenue.
We could go over a lot, we'll take it, but we're ideally, we want to hit that 100% and go over. The remaining $4.5 million is comprised of things like departmental income, intergovernmental charges, our state aid, pilots, interest on property tax, levies, interest on our income, and investments. So through the first 9 months, again, we're going to use 75% to benchmark. We've received a total of almost $3.8 million of those areas, which is 85% of our total budget. Again, trending above that 75% benchmark. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, the pilot receipts are always come at 100%. We bill them out at the beginning of the year, then we book them as revenue, and then as the cash comes in, we reduce our receivables. However, our interest earnings, we are right now standing, as of the end of September, 122% of our budget. So we're 22% over budget, almost $34,000. And we've got October through the end of the year. And granted, the rates have gone down just a little bit, but we should show a favorable ending to the interest earnings this year. Our departmental income is also trending over our benchmark. And the main reasons for that are things like our departmental income, which I think was trailing a little bit the last quarter, but now has picked up a little bit. One of the things that is still lagging a little bit is the licenses and permits. So we're looking good on revenues for this particular quarter. Now let's look at the expenses. There's good news there too. As everybody knows, about 75% or $19.2 million is going to be for our payment for salaries and fringe benefits for our workers and our retirees. Right now, again, using the benchmark of 75%, when I look at what we've booked through the payroll in September, we are trending at just a little bit over 70%. So again, salaries are trending favorably, which is what we would expect given that we're not going to see harsh weather for a really long time, or at least after the end of October. So most of our overtime, which is also trending favorably, we had the police department, which they're at 70% of their budget, and our highway is at 71.2% for overtime only. Now remember, this is really going to be because of bad weather we had early in the year. And when I look at what we did in 2018, we're actually right where we were, a little bit less than where we were at the same time. So we're trending well in that department. So we're not going to have any winter until, well, maybe December. I'll put another month on that. Other things in the budget that are trending well is our health insurance is trending at, we've paid 10 out of 12 months because we're going to pay that ahead. We are at 80%. Where if I use the benchmarking of 83%, again, 10 months out of 12, so we're trending just very well favorably on our health insurance for both retirees and for active employees. Our bill from the New York State Retirement System has not arrived yet. However, for the first quarter of the year, we were trending just a little bit below budget. I expect that to continue as we can do a rather good job at projecting those numbers out. Exclusive of all that, we've got all the rest of our expenses, the contractual expenses, as we like to call them. And equipment is a piece of that. We are actually at 64%. So I'm guessing that whatever our departments have put in their budgets for the current year, they'll be ordering and purchasing before year end. And part of what's happening also is that some of the items that they have ordered in equipment have come in obviously a little bit less than we projected. Always good news. Contractual expenses are broken down for things like supplies, materials, contracted services, things like that. We are trending altogether with encumbrances and expenses at 82%. However, actuals below budget at only 62%. So we've got money locked up on our purchase orders because we know we've got contractual obligations to pay. We've got things we know we're going to order or have ordered. So at the end of the quarter, we're, again, actually what's been posted to the budget is 62%. Utility expenses are trending at 59%, which is what we would expect, given we've just gone through the summer. We've got longer hours for light. I don't think it was a terribly hot season, but so we're looking at where that'll pick up during this last quarter when we hit the cooler weather and we start running the heat and turning our lights on longer. Liability insurance is at 86%. We're paid through the end of the year for just about all of our insurance policies. So we've seen a favorable showing on that line. And of course, our debt service is always right on budget because we can project that exactly. So in conclusion, I would say that we've performed very well through the third quarter of the year. Revenues are strong. We are minding our purchases, keeping everything in check. We are not going over budget where it can't be helped. We're doing transfers and finding areas where we can move money to the areas where it's needed. Again, revenues are running favorably, and as we enter into the fourth quarter, we'll still be diligent. We're still going to monitor, and we'll make sure that any negative trends that show up, we will actually be able to take steps to mitigate any negative impact on our budget.
Thanks, Paula. Very, very thorough and much appreciated. Thank you. Other matters of the supervisor, we've already talked about it, but again, just one more reminder, the Highland Crossing Trail, which, you know, is a great project. It will connect from Brighton Town Park on Westfall Road, which connects to the Erie Canal Trail, up through Brighton up to Elmwood near the Brickstone, and then down Elmwood up through Highland Park and through the Highland Park neighborhood of the city, ultimately ending at the Genesee River Trail just north of the U of R River campus. It's about a 3-mile long trail, and we're so pleased that we can be opening that trail this Friday at 10 o'clock, ribbon cutting. Several people have asked about an updated map. There is a map online, but we have a much nicer map with a lot of relevant points of interest, a lot of connections that trail will make, and a lot more information about the trail itself that I don't think we were able to get up tonight, but I think we will be tomorrow. It's a great map. Thanks, Mike, for you and your department coordinating that. Couple of events that I've been to in the past week. One last Thursday. It really makes you appreciate for how long people have been serving other people in this community. That was an event celebrating the 170th anniversary of the predecessor to what is now the Friendly Home on East Avenue. Started in the city, but it has been in the Friendly Home location on East Avenue itself has been there for 101 years. So it's a pretty remarkable institution, and they're certainly well justified in celebrating, and I'm grateful to them. They were really one of the leaders in the community in providing care to patients with Alzheimer's and dementia. Congratulations to them. And congratulations are also in order to the member of faith communities of the Brighton Council of Churches Habitat for Humanity building group, which turned over their 7th home and perfectly appropriate on Love Street in the city. It was the second house they have done on Love Street in the Josana neighborhood on the west side of the city. It was, those events are always such joyful events, and got a chance to talk with the new owner and her 2 children and people from a number of different churches and leaders of those churches that were there. And I always like to put in a plug for the AmeriCorps people. You know, AmeriCorps was potentially on the chopping block a number of years ago, and I've had the chance to work with AmeriCorps volunteers. They are integral in habitat builds, so kudos to them as well. We're going to lose Ernie. Ernie's a low-key kind of guy. He didn't want a big ceremony in here, but this is Ernie Heinsbergen's last week. 38 years, Mike?
38 years, yep, long time.
Remarkable, remarkable service. I had someone ask me earlier this year, you mean Ernie's still working there? He is. Just for this one last week, though, I know you'll convey the gratitude of the entire community, and certainly of those of us up here. I'll get a chance to say thank you myself, but he's done a great job for a lot of years. And since we're talking about highway, we better talk about leaves. because we are now in leaf pickup season. Christine, you talked about quality of service before. Maybe we sometimes take some of the services we have in Brighton. An awful lot of communities, not just, farther out, but here in the area, don't pick up leaves the way that we do. Don't pick up lawn and garden debris the way that we do. And certainly don't mulch leaves the way that we do, speaking of sustainability. But we are now in leaf pickup mode, and if we have many more days with the kind of winds we had today, those leaves will be falling. I always want to encourage people to take a look on our webpage to look to see both our bulk and our containerized pickup schedule. And as I always do, and Judy does so well as well, reminding people, please do not put the leaves in the street. It does cause drainage issues, and it causes safety issues. We had a meeting where someone was talking about kids playing in leaf piles, and it just sent the heebie-jeebies down my spine, because I know that sometimes happens. Leaf piles are very attractive to kids. If that leaf pile is in the street, your kids or somebody else's kids may be playing in your leaf pile in the street. You don't even know about it, and neither does the driver coming along. We care too much about our kids to let that happen. Please don't pile your leaves in the street. Pile them on the lawn. If you have a sidewalk, pile them between the sidewalk and the street. If you don't have a sidewalk, pile them on your grass close to the asphalt, but not in the asphalt. For everybody's sake, we'll keep reminding you of that. November 11th, of course, is Veterans Day, and as we do each year, we will be honoring our veterans out at our Brighton Veterans Memorial at 2 o'clock on November 11th, which is a Monday. We talked about festive holidays, and we have a festive holiday coming up, Diwali. Diwali is coming up. It's a holiday celebrated in many parts of the Indian community. This is a candile that I got, a decorative. You can't really put a light in this one, but I will be hanging it. And I got it out at the India Community Center as part of their India Day festivities earlier this fall. But we do want to wish everybody that's celebrating Diwali a very happy and festive occasion. And I think that's everything that I have. Matters of the attorney.
I may have missed this, and I apologize if I did or if it's not necessary, but do we need to have a motion to receive and approve the expense report for this?
We should do that. We should have a motion to receive and file that.
I don't have
It's usually the monthly, each month when we present the monthly as a
Paula
receipt
will give you
file.
that report then.
Okay.
So yes, let's have a motion to receive and file the third quarter finance report, because you're right, we didn't do that.
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Bannon.
Aye. Anything else?
Why, sure. I have a couple matters, brief matters for executive session regarding matters of litigation that I'd like to discuss with the board, if we can do that afterwards, please.
Sure can. Matters of the town clerk.
Well, speaking of festive holidays, Election Day is right around the corner before our next meeting. So November 5th is Election Day. But sooner than that, beginning Saturday, for the first time here in New York, we have early voting taking place. Long overdue here, but it's here now, and that's the important thing. One site is actually right here in Brighton at Empire State College, so you don't even have to travel very far to get it, although you can go to any of the sites.
And you can walk on Saturday to the Empire State
Highland
College on the
Crossing
brand-new
Trail.
Highland Crossing Trail.
But you could choose if you want. You can go to Greece, Ogden, MCC's downtown campus, the Penfield Town Hall, Marketplace Mall, or the Ridge Culver Plaza in Arundecoit, or the other locations. So if you happen to be somewhere else or that's close to one of your workplace or close to family or somebody, you can give them a ride to the polls and head out, take care of that early. Every day from this Saturday to Sunday the 3rd, voting is taking place in some block of time. The board did the best they could to kind of spread out those times to be able to accommodate people who work varying shifts or, having very different, childcare responsibilities, to be able to get to different times of the day. So as early as 7 in the morning, as late as 8 at night, depending on the day. And you'll see new poll books for the first time starting Saturday. So they actually have electronic poll books. They're basically little iPads. So the paper book that you're used to, you won't see at early voting. However, you will still see them on Tuesday, November 5th, because the vendor was not able to deliver enough iPads to any of their customers in time. So not just Monroe County, but a bunch of other counties as well. They failed to be able to get enough hardware off the shelves. So if you know anybody that works for the Board of Elections, keep them in your thoughts on Sunday, November 3rd, because at 2 o'clock when early voting closes, they will be there until, because they have to mark all 857 poll books with people who have voted early by hand. So for all of us who have friends at the Board of Elections, we think of them and maybe, buy them a drink later in November when they finally come out of this and give them a hug, because really they might need more than anything else. So you will still see the paper poll books, hopefully one last time on Tuesday the 5th. But then after that, again, we will be switching over for the presidential primary in the spring, which is going to be great. So if you want to see the cool new technology, just yet another reason to get out there and vote early.
Thanks, Dan. Matters of the town board.
I did just want to mention an item of recreation, a couple items of recreation. First of all, our Bright Penn Senior Rides, which is a program sponsored by Lifespan that offers senior citizens living in Brighton and Penfield the rides to medical appointments, religious services, and other town recreation events. We do need volunteer drivers currently. So to find out more about the program or to become a volunteer driver, we ask that you please do call 585-340-8674. Again, that's 585-340-8674 to help with this critical service to the community. And while I mentioned the haunted grounds at Buckland Farmhouse for Friday, October 25th in the evening from 6 to 9, I failed to mention our sensory-friendly Halloween Happy House for the younger or those more sensitive to the scares of the haunted grounds. That event will be on Friday, October 25th, immediately preceding the haunted grounds from 5 to 6 p.m. Both events are free, and we do remind and ask people to bring a non-perishable food item for our Brighton food cupboard.
Thanks, Robin. Anything else? Christine?
Yes, I'd like to thank Robin for the update on the the community workshop that took place this past Sunday, and I'd like to expand a little and just be sure that the community is aware of where that fits into the overall project. As folks may recall, Brighton entered the Complete Streets Makeover contest run by Reconnect Rochester. We had identified the Brighton Safe Streets for All organization, identified the Brooklawn, Torrington, Monroe Avenue intersection as being one of great concern. Other community members also nominated that intersection. You would think it would have been a win, but it was not.
But it was close.
It was close, and instead, we got the best consolation prize ever, which is a partnership with the Cornell University Design Connect student team. And their project, the student project, an entire semester is to focus on not just that intersection, but all of the complicated intersections along Monroe Avenue between, but not including, 12 Corners and I-590. They've done a lot of work looking closely at it. They gathered community input at the farmers market in September. They brought that input and preliminary designs back to Brighton. Community members spent time looking at that and taking an opportunity to take a clean look as well and put their own concepts down on paper, envisioning a complete street concept for essentially our main street in Brighton. The students presented an outstanding summary of what it is, what complete streets are. That summary will be available online through social media shortly, and we may be able to figure out how to get it onto the town website as well. We'll work on that. The final product that's going to be delivered to the town of Brighton, and all of this pro bono through Cornell Design Connect and with the support of Reconnect Rochester, it will be a final report. It'll be renderings of the redesigned concepts, a cost analysis, a study of the impact of street diets in similar communities, street diets, complete streets, makeovers, and research on potential zoning changes, special district formation, bike lanes in right-of-way, et cetera. This is all experiential learning, and we are supporting the professional development of young people in our region, and from that we get back their valuable guidance and input. We can take all of that and advance our own vision as outlined in Envision Brighton, the comprehensive plan ratified about this time last year. So all of the pieces come together from the visioning in the comprehensive plan process all the way through to coming up with concrete examples of what we can do in Brighton to make it better, and we inform our community and our town staff in building those things out. So next steps will be to take a trip down to Ithaca to see the students present later this semester. I'll be on the road, and I invite my fellow leaders to join me when the date is set for that.
Thanks, Christine. It was great seeing them back here in town. I had an opportunity to spend a little bit of time with them as well. And I also want to thank Mike Guyon, because Mike has really put a lot of time in, not only working with those students, but getting that application, getting the support tied together in the first place. So looking forward to.
I will add that the students are very lucky to be engaging with Mike, a professional like Mike. Yeah. They are seeing a real life example of where their careers will go and the benefit that
none of them ran screaming out of the room either.
They did not. They were excited. They didn't want to go back, and they didn't want to leave.
They've done a yeoman's job.
Yeah, they have.
Nice job. Yep.
Great to see. All right. Any other matters of the town board? If not, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters of litigation and the employment of particular people?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Thank you. I don't anticipate coming back out into open session afterwards, so have a wonderful evening. We will see you at our next meeting, which will be Wednesday, November 13th. Have a great evening, everyone.